Katie Thornton is a cemetery historian, something that we were not aware of, but her project is so intriguing. She's also a radio journalist, and what she's going to do is she's traveling to the UK and to Singapore to explore the intersection of land use, memory, and technology in cemeteries. And her project is called Death in the Digital Age. Katie, coming down.
Thanks, Greg. I think you haven't heard of it because it doesn't exist. I made up the position. But the first thing I do when I get to a new city is go to a graveyard. And I don't do this for any perverse reason. I do this because I'm a public historian. And graveyards are these vast public libraries of stories. And I do this also because when I was 19, I got really sick, and mortality felt pretty tangible. I would take walks through my home city of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I started to find comfort in this large cemetery. It was one of the few places in the built environment that gave real estate to that human experience of loss. I went on to create a job at that cemetery, and I've been able to do really original work that I'm very thankful for. I produce GPS-guided audio tours, I write digital historic content, and I curate a sort of social media of the deceased. But cemeteries as we know them are not sustainable, ecologically or culturally. Our world is increasingly urban land is increasingly limited, and now we can digitally document and preserve everything. So this year, for my Fulbright Nat Geo Fellowship, I'll be going to the UK and Singapore to produce Death in the Digital Age. It's a podcast and multimedia project about how and where we remember. I'll give you a bit of an example. This winter, I was in New Orleans, and a lot of the issues facing cemeteries in New Orleans are relevant in my host countries as well. Limited land, changing demographics, and misuse. So while I was there, QR codes went up on 2 of the city's cemeteries, and I asked some of the key players why. Daniel Hammer runs the museum that helped fund the codes.
New Orleans cemeteries are really dynamic. You know, they're much more than just the places where we put dead people, but things that aren't part of the digital universe are not as relevant.
It's good to have the QR codes.
Sherry Peppo manages the cemeteries with the new codes.
It's mostly older generations being buried. That's how you're gonna attract the younger generations.
Howard Margo runs archives at the museum. He doesn't use QR codes.
You want to see my phone? That's what my phone sounds like.
But he agrees that embracing new technologies in graveyards could encourage people to keep utilizing these spaces. But all of my conversations revealed an unspoken goal of the digital project. The information on the QR codes isn't just a handy way to learn more, it's a means of archiving the spaces, in case they ever go away.
There are cemeteries in South Louisiana where I have some family members buried that's been underwater for decades and decades. This place is not going to be here forever, but we are creating the tools that would allow someone to recreate this place.
The future of these spaces is uncertain, but the digital projects are here to stay, we think.
Which will last longer, the original bricks and mortar or their digital surrogates? That's anyone's guess.
So a lot is at stake in this moment, because without planning, the stories buried at cemeteries could be lost forever. And those documentation technologies might prove to have really short shelf lives. Or, with some creativity, the stories of the past and the present could be preserved in more engaging, accessible ways. My colleagues abroad have already created augmented reality memorials and mobile apps to document graveyards before they're dug up for the expansion of new roads, and so much more. Together with my collaborators, we will encourage creative conversation about land use, memory, and technology, and we'll bring death into the digital age. And you can follow that on the Open Explorers platform. Thank you.